What ultimate abilities can Emma Frost interrupt with her Carbon Crush move during Diamond form in Marvel Rivals? Let's take a look. Firstly, let's begin with something very basic. When some characters use their ultimate, like Spiderman, the HP bar at the bottom stays the same. When we change to some other specific characters, like let's take Psylocke for example, when you activate your ultimate, a yellow outline appears in your health bar. That indicates that the character is unstoppable, and we can see the same in other ultimates or even specific abilities. For example, when Emma Frost goes into her Diamond form, we can see the enemy health bar has a yellow outline because she is unstoppable or in that state, meaning she cannot be displaced or affected by specific crowd control abilities. Some of these ultimates, as we saw with Psylocke just now, have a specific point where they are still not unstoppable and interruptible. Venom has a very tight window for that, for example. He is unstoppable for the majority of his ultimate ability duration. If we go to someone like Luna Snow, she immediately becomes unstoppable, so we don't really have a window to stop her. And since Emma's Carbon Crush is a crowd control ability, a great rule of thumb to remember is that you cannot interrupt ultimate abilities while the user of said ultimate is in the unstoppable state. Just like how when you are in the Diamond form with Emma, other characters like Invisible Woman cannot of course displace you. Getting to more character specific stuff, starting with Captain America, while you can use Carbon Crush on him while in his ultimate, you cannot interrupt it or stop it. Doctor Strange does a whole animation before he activates his ultimate, so you can interrupt him and save your team from the stun. Bruce Banner or Hulk also has an animation, but it's more of a cutscene, it's not interruptible, so while Bruce Banner transforms into the Hulk, or while even Hulk is transforming for the maximum form, you still cannot interrupt him. You can use Carbon Crush on all forms, but the transformation itself not interruptible. Magneto cannot really be stopped, he levitates way too fast for you to actually react and grab him out of his ultimate, and while he is levitating, he is unstoppable. Venom, while in the symbiote pool, cannot be interrupted, he is unstoppable, but there is actually a very tight window while he jumps to get into the symbiote pool, where you can interrupt the ultimate. But it is an extremely tight window and I do not actually think it's possible in game, especially with all of the chaos that will probably be going on, but it is still there, so kind of good to know. If you can predict it perhaps, you can cut him out of the air. Groot also has a very tight window to interrupt his ultimate before he throws the seeds for the stun on the ground, so it is possible, but very hard to do. The thing can actually be interrupted during the beginning lines of his ultimate ability, before he stuns everyone. Still a tight window, but very possible. Peni Parker can be grabbed at any point of her ultimate ability, but she cannot be stopped or interrupted. Just like Captain America, her ultimate ability will still be ongoing, but perhaps if you can save a teammate or stall for them, you can still grab her. Thor is technically interruptible, but you need to almost frame perfect grab him while the person activates his ultimate. If you don't do that, then he is very similar to Magneto. He levitates way too fast and is unstoppable while in the air, meaning you cannot interrupt him after that extremely tight window, which to be honest, it is not even really worth trying to do. It's simply better to save your Carbon Crush to use on another character. And of course, for the newest addition to the Vanguard lineup, Emma Frost, since you are going to see the mirror match a lot, you can actually interrupt her ultimate before she starts emitting beams from her head. So as soon as she says the line and the exclamation mark appears, you can stop her. After she starts emitting the rays, you cannot do anything to her. So she is unstoppable after that point, as you can see from the HP bar as well. Getting to the duelists, Hawkeye, before finishing his ultimate animation, can be interrupted out of his ultimate ability. It is a more forgiving window than other characters we have seen before, but if you are too late, his ultimate will still happen. Storm is also interruptible while she starts charging up her tornado. While she activates the ultimate, she gets into the unstoppable state, so you can't really stop her and you will die trying. If she doesn't target you though, which will most likely not happen, you can track her and immediately grab her when she comes out of the ultimate. To be honest though, a good storm will charge up the ultimate higher in the air if she goes against an Emma Frost, and that way she can avoid or minimize the possibility of her being interrupted. For Panther, he immediately gets into the unstoppable state, so he cannot be interrupted during his ultimate, and if you do face him trying to grab him, he will easily get you out of there, he will melt you even in the diamond state, and something you can do is actually wait for his ultimate to expire and then attack him to get him out of there if you do need to for the situation you are in. Magik can easily be interrupted. She takes quite a while to get into her demon form, so while she is in the transformation state, you can easily grab her out of it to cancel her ultimate. If you are late though, she will still transform into the demon child and her ultimate will be active. Black Panther can also be interrupted while he is charging Burst, but at the initial state of the animation. Later on he will still unleash Burst and of course apply the damage as well. Hela can simply not be interrupted at any point because she immediately gets into the unstoppable state, which means even if you are in an advantageous position to perhaps dash to her and reach her with your Carbon Crush, she can still not be stopped or grabbed out of the air, which means you are going to waste your cooldown. It's also not possible to grab her out of the ultimate before she levitates into the air. Black Widow can be interrupted while she charges up her blast. I'm not certain if the dynamic of the game will allow it though, because either the Black Widow will be far away from you in a spot you can't reach her, or it wouldn't really be worth as Emma Frost to try and go after a Black Widow anyway. To be honest, a lot of things here depend on the decisions Black Widow makes. How long will she charge her ultimate, when will she decide to activate it, her positioning and stuff like that. For Squirrel Girl, you can actually interrupt her when she holds her slingshot up. After that she unleashes her squirrels and you can still grab her and of course kill her, but you simply cannot interrupt her ultimate anymore. If you go up against an undecisive Squirrel Girl player or someone that is simply new to the character and they do not know how or where to exactly aim their ultimate ability, you can super easily interrupt them and probably also kill them. Moon Knight can also be interrupted while he is holding up his Ankh, essentially in the window where he is trying to aim where to send or detonate his ultimate. The faster he does it, the less the opportunity for an Emma Frost player to grab him out of it, obviously. Scarlet Witch can be interrupted during her ultimate, but it also depends on the height she is actually at when activating it. If you can reach her, you can interrupt. Spiderman just gets a shield during his ultimate. He is not unstoppable, so you can interrupt him at any point during it. You can save your healers a headache, and you can also get the annoying bug out of there right after. So as far as diving duelists go, so far everyone can be interrupted. As far as Iron Man goes, you can interrupt him during his ultimate while he is charging up to send out the blast, but if he is higher up in the air and you can't reach him, you also obviously cannot interrupt him. So if he places himself well and he's not on ground level or at a point where he can be reached by Emma Frost's dash, then you can't stop it. And to be fair, the same thing applies to all the flying duelists in Marvel Rivals. Namor can actually not be interrupted out of his ultimate, especially if you are in the area of effect. If you are in his ultimate, you simply cannot even dash to him. If you are out of his ultimate, then yes, you can dash to him and grab him, but you cannot interrupt him out of it, no matter how early you actually activate your dash. Star-Lord is another character that is not only very evasive, but also can activate his ultimate while being high in the air, so he shouldn't really be ever at a point where you can reach him and grab him out of his ultimate, but if you can, it is possible to interrupt it. You won't completely put a stop or an end to his ultimate, but you will delay him a little bit and perhaps even kill him. You cannot completely stop his ultimate though, just slightly interrupt him for a little bit. If you do happen to grab him and you are near a wall, you can also leave his headprint on the wall and actually kill him to stop his ultimate that way. Bucky Barnes immediately jumps up and is also in the unstoppable state, so you cannot interrupt him during the ultimate. Maybe you can try to get him after he slams down, but it is extremely difficult to do if you are not at the correct position. But either way, you cannot interrupt him. Iron Fist will mark the first diver that cannot be interrupted out of his ultimate, because even if you do grab him during his transformation, then he will still enter the transformation, so it doesn't really matter. You cannot stop him from transforming. You can still grab him and perhaps kill him, but you can't stop him. Wolverine cannot be interrupted out of his ultimate because he immediately enters the unstoppable state, and in this scenario Wolverine might even be hunting the Emma Frost player, so not great news, but yeah, not possible to stop Wolverine. Psylocke can be interrupted when she pauses for a brief moment before she starts her slashes. After the slash attacks begin, she gets into the unstoppable state, you cannot stop her. Mr. Fantastic cannot be interrupted, he immediately becomes unstoppable and starts bouncing up and down. Even if he could be stopped, I don't really know if you would go for it, but it's not possible either way. The final duelist in the game is Human Torch. He can be interrupted out of his ultimate during the activation of the supernova, when he essentially brings together his elbows and his knees. You can interrupt him there. If you do it late, he will still enter his ultimate though, so be careful with the timing. The thing is, he's still a flyer. He will most likely activate his ultimate higher in the air, where you can't really reach him, but if you do have the ability to do that, you can also stop his ultimate attack. For the strategists, Rocket Raccoon cannot be interrupted out of his ultimate. Mantis cannot be interrupted during her ultimate, it will still be ongoing, but she can be attacked, meaning that if you do have the ability to somehow throw her off a ledge, you can also stop her ultimate. Loki cannot be interrupted from taking the form of another character in the game, and of course after he does that, if he activates the ultimate or if he can be interrupted or not, depends on what character he decides to become. Adam Warlock cannot be stopped during his ultimate ability, but perhaps you can stay close to him and grab him after the animation is done. Luna Snow immediately enters the unstoppable state when activating her ultimate, so no matter if she's healing or damage boosting her allies, you cannot grab her out of it and stop the ultimate. Just like Warlock, if you stay close to her, you can grab her after. Cloak and Dagger also cannot be interrupted during their ultimate ability. You can grab them after, but even then there's not really a point since the healing effect is still active. Invisible Woman can't really be interrupted out of her ultimate ability, she activates it way too fast. Now technically, if the player stays there undecisive where to place it levitating, yes, you can interrupt her, but that's not really a realistic scenario, so Invisible Woman cannot be interrupted. And for the final strategist and character in Marvel Rivals, we have Jeff, who cannot be interrupted at any point with his ultimate ability. Not in the startup animation, not when he becomes a big shark and eats everyone, or when he tries to swim away with your teammates to throw them off a cliff. He actually transitions into the unstoppable state when he hits your teammates, so you simply cannot grab him, but he can be grabbed at the moment he spits your teammates, or if he tries to specifically eat you in the diamond form, he can't because you're unstoppable, you then can kill him. To also see some of the ultimate ability activation POVs, Bucky immediately gets into the unstoppable state. The same happens with Wolverine, so you don't really have a timing window to grab and interrupt these characters. And for Hela, another example, she immediately gets into an animation and the unstoppable state flies into the air and then shoots down people. Thank you for watching, subscribe for more Rivals content, but until then, see ya!